Have you ever wondered what sits at the very edge of everything? The final boundary where creation simply stops and something else begins? Here's the strange part. Scientists now believe such a boundary really exists. We can measure it. We can map it. We just cannot see what lies on the other side. And in an ancient book, one that was pushed out of the Bible more than 1,600 years ago, there is a description of exactly that place. Not a metaphor, not a poem. A specific account of a man who was carried past the last star, past the last structure of the universe, to a wall where everything that exists simply ends. If that single idea makes your skin prickle, a wall at the end of everything, then you are in the right place. Hit the like button so this channel keeps following the edge of the unknown. Subscribe so you never miss what we find there. And share this video with one person who loves the kind of mystery that keeps them staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning. The book I'm talking about is the Book of Enoch, and almost everyone has heard of it, but almost nobody has actually read it. It is one of the strangest documents that has ever survived from the ancient world. It was written, experts believe, roughly 3 centuries before Jesus was born, though parts of it may be much older. It was read, copied, and treasured for centuries, and then in the West, it simply vanished. For more than 1,000 years, no one in Europe had a copy. The only reason we have it today is that one church in Africa, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, decided it would never let it go. When European travelers finally reached Ethiopia in the 18th century, they were shocked to find a complete Book of Enoch sitting in the monasteries there, written in ancient Ge'ez, preserved with the care of people who considered it scripture. A Scottish explorer named James Bruce carried copies back to Europe in 1773, and the world met Enoch again after more than a millennium of silence. But here is the part that should stop you cold. Fragments of this same book, written in Aramaic, were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran, copies that date back to before the time of Christ, which means the Book of Enoch is not some medieval invention. It is a genuinely ancient text, old enough that parts of it are quoted in the New Testament itself. The letter of Jude in your Bible quotes a prophecy that it credits to Enoch, called him the 7th from Adam. The early church knew this book. Early Christians debated it. Some church fathers loved it. And then, slowly, officially, the church turned its back on it. Why? That is one of the most fascinating stories in religious history, and it connects directly to what Enoch claims to have seen at the end of the universe. First, you need to understand what this book actually is, because it is not a single book at all. It is more like a library stitched together. 5, maybe 6 different writings, bound under one name. The first part tells the story of the Watchers, 200 angels who descended to Earth, took human wives, and taught humanity forbidden knowledge, astrology, weapon-making, cosmetics, sorcery. Their children were giants, and the world fell into chaos, so God punished the Watchers and bound them in a prison under the earth. That story, by the way, is exactly what the book of Genesis is pointing at when it briefly mentions giants and the sons of God in chapter 6. Enoch just tells the full version. The second part of the book is where it gets truly strange. Its later chapters describe Enoch's own journey through the heavens. This is the journey that scholars actually study. In chapter 14, Enoch is lifted into the sky in a vision, carried through clouds and fire until he reaches a house built from hailstones, and inside it, another house, and inside that, a vision of the throne of God himself. The text describes walls of crystal, tongues of living fire, rivers of flaming fire beneath the throne, and a figure so immense and so radiant that no creature could describe him. It is one of the most awe-inspiring passages in all of ancient literature. Then the book does something that almost no other text of its time did. It keeps going. In chapters 17, 18, and 19, Enoch is taken by angels to the ends of the earth, and his guides show him what is actually there. Not clouds, not golden streets, not abstract heaven. Structures, physical places. He sees the 7 mountains of precious stone. He sees the prison where the fallen stars are bound, chained and burning for the crime of disobeying their courses. He sees a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire, and he is told, "This is the end of heaven and earth, a prison for the stars of heaven." He is shown the pillars of the heavens, the very load-bearing beams of creation. Think about what that means. In this text, the universe is not infinite. It is not endless. It is a place. It has a shape. It has floors and walls and ceilings. And it has an edge, an absolute edge beyond which the most powerful angels refuse to travel. Now here is where the story gets even stranger, because there is a claim about this book that refuses to go away. You will find it whispered in corners of the internet, in videos and forums about forbidden texts. The claim goes like this: somewhere in Ethiopia, in a restricted archive, there is a version of Enoch that contains a passage no Western translation has ever printed, a passage that describes a journey not to the throne of God, but beyond everything. past the throne, past the angels, past the last structure of creation, to the boundary itself, and then outside of it, to a place that existed before the universe was made. The account says Enoch looked outward into that place and found it was not empty. Something was there, something aware, something that had been waiting longer than the universe itself has existed, and that had only recently begun to move, slowly toward the wall, toward us. Is that real? I cannot verify it. No translation, no published archive, no scholar I can reach has confirmed it. It may be a legend layered on top of an ancient text, the way mist forms on a mountain. But here's the thing that makes it impossible to dismiss entirely. The real Book of Enoch, the one we can actually read, already describes a universe with a wall. It already takes a man to the end of heaven and earth. It already describes the boundary of creation as a physical thing you could touch. The legend did not invent the boundary. The boundary is sitting right there in the text, in black and white, written 2,300 years ago. So let me ask you a question before we go deeper, and I want you to really sit with it. What if an ancient writer, with no telescopes, no computers, no idea that the universe was even a thing you could measure, somehow described the outer edge of everything in a way that modern physics recognizes? Would that change anything about how you see this book? Would it change how you see the universe? Because, stay with me, because starting in the 1960s, the boundary that Enoch described started showing up in scientific data. And it did not show up once. It showed up again and again and again. Thank you for staying this far with me, honestly. That means more than you know. This is the kind of topic where most people scroll away, so if you're still here, you're exactly the kind of curious mind this channel is built for. If what I am about to tell you earns your trust today, the single best way to support me is simple. Share this video with one friend who loves space or history. The one share can introduce this story to someone who needs to hear it. And if you have not subscribed yet, this is the moment, because the next video in this series takes us even further, and I do not want you to miss it. In 1964, two radio astronomers in New Jersey were trying to detect faint signals from space. Their names were Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, and they kept hearing a noise. A hiss. A faint, steady, annoying hiss that came from every direction in the sky, no matter where they pointed their enormous horn antenna. They thought it was equipment failure. They thought it was interference. They even cleaned pigeon droppings out of the antenna to get rid of it, which is one of the greatest sentences in the history of science. The hiss would not go away. It was not a mistake. It was the oldest light in the universe, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, still washing over the cosmos after nearly 14 billion years. It is called the cosmic microwave background, and it was emitted when the universe was only about 380,000 years old, before the first star had ever switched on. That ancient light surrounds us on every side. No matter how powerful our telescopes become, we will never see past it, because before that moment, the universe was a fog too dense for light to travel through. The thing about this discovery is that it means the observable universe has a wall. Not a wall of stone, but a wall of time, a surface of last scattering, the literal edge of everything we can see. Beyond it, there's only the unknown. Now watch what happens next, because this is where the story turns from fascinating to genuinely uncomfortable. If the universe were truly random at its largest scale, the cosmic microwave background should look almost the same in every direction. Perfectly smooth, featureless, no preferred direction, no special place, no arrow pointing anywhere. That is what every physics model expected. But that is not what the data showed. In 2004, astronomers analyzing the cosmic microwave background found a spot. A spot in the constellation Eridanus, near the south, where the ancient light is noticeably colder than everywhere around it, colder by about 70 millionths of a degree. It sounds tiny. It is not tiny. The spot is roughly 1 billion light years across, and for almost 2 decades, no one has fully explained why it is there. Some researchers found a giant void in that direction, an empty region of space so large it might make the light passing through it lose energy. Others say the void is not big enough, not empty enough, to explain the cold spot completely. One research group even proposed that the cold spot could be a scar, a bruise, left on our universe by a collision with something outside of it, before the Big Bang. That paper remains controversial. Nobody has closed the case, and the cold spot is not alone. In the 1970s, astronomers mapping the motion of galaxies made a discovery that should have been impossible. The Milky Way, our entire galaxy, is moving, not just spinning, not just drifting, but falling, along with millions of neighboring galaxies, toward a single point in space, at roughly 600 kilometers per second. Every second, all of us together. Something enormous is out there, pulling us. Scientists called it the Great Attractor. But here's the strange part. We cannot see what it is. Our own galaxy's dust sits right in the way, a band of sky called the zone of avoidance, and behind it, hidden from every telescope we have, whatever is pulling us waits in darkness. Every map of the universe we have ever drawn is incomplete in that one direction. Then there is the force that dominates everything. In 1998, two teams of astronomers measuring distant exploding stars discovered that the expansion of the universe is not slowing down. It is speeding up. Something is pushing space itself apart, and it is winning. They called it dark energy. It makes up roughly 68% of everything in the universe, yet we have no direct idea what it is. It behaves like a pressure built into empty space, an outward push that grows as the universe expands. Let me pause here, because I need you to see the pattern that is forming. An invisible something on the far side of a wall we cannot see past, pressing inward or pushing outward against the boundary of the universe, a growing weak spot in that boundary, a cold scar where the light is wrong. Everything we can measure is drifting, falling toward one direction, pulled by an unseen mass behind a curtain of dust. And in the cosmic microwave background, the largest structures of the sky are aligned along an axis, a preferred direction, a giant arrow running through the whole map of creation. That last one was so embarrassing to cosmologists that they gave it a joke name. They called it the axis of evil. A universe that formed the way physics says it formed should have no preferred direction. It should look the same in every direction, statistically. But the data from the WMAP satellite in 2005 and from later missions kept showing an alignment that should not be there. Some say it is an artifact of our galaxy's own light. Others say it is real. Either way, the arrow is still there, pointing across the entire universe toward a direction we cannot fully see. Now, I am a careful person, so let me be honest with you. Science does not need an ancient book to explain any of this. Every one of these anomalies has a natural explanation being tested right now. The cold spot may be a void. The axis of evil may be foreground contamination. The Great Attractor is probably just an enormous concentration of galaxies hidden in plain sight. Dark energy may turn out to be an inherent property of space with nothing mystical about it at all, and every cosmologist would tell you that is the sane position. But here is the part I need you to hold in your mind, because it is the whole point of this story. 4 independent mysteries, each with its own careful scientific debate. The wall of the observable universe, the mystery of what is beyond it. The cold spot that could not be explained. The universe moving towards something it cannot see. And an ancient book, written in a language most of us cannot read, described all of it 2,000 years before the first telescope was built. The description in the text is not a scientific description. It is a vision. It is myth language, dream language, the language of a man who stood at the edge of everything and tried to tell us what it felt like. But the shape of it, the structure of it, matches the shape of our best data with a precision that makes you want to look away. So now I have to ask you the question that this whole story has been building toward, and I want you to answer it in your head before I say anything else. If you could stand at the end of the universe tonight, with all of it behind you, your whole life, every person you have ever loved, every place you have ever stood, all of it at your back, and in front of you, only the wall, only the dark, and you knew somehow that something was waiting on the other side, would you reach out and touch it? I dare you to hold that image for 5 full seconds. 5 seconds, with your eyes open. No phone, no music, just you and that wall. If you can do it, if you can really sit inside that image, then you already understand what this book is doing to the people who read it. And I double dare you to put your answer in the comments, because I read every single one, and I genuinely want to know which side you land on. While you're there, drop a subscribe if you want to keep standing at this edge with me, because the next video goes into the watchers themselves, and it is going to be the strangest one yet. Let me tell you why this story cuts so deep, why it has survived for 2,000 years, why the church could not just leave it alone. Because the Book of Enoch asks a question that no institution wants asked. If there was something before creation, then creation is not the whole story. If the universe has a wall, then God is not the only mystery, and neither are we. There is something older than the oldest thing we know, and the text says it is still there, still pressing against the boundary of everything. Think about what that does to a settled worldview. The church fathers who removed Enoch understood this perfectly. Athanasius, in the 4th century, drew up one of the earliest authoritative lists of which books belonged in the Bible, and Enoch was not on it. The Council of Laodicea, around the year 364, settled the matter for the Greek-speaking church. And again, no Enoch. Jerome, who translated the Bible into Latin, dismissed the book as apocryphal, and Augustine, the most influential thinker in Christian history, reasoned that the book could not be divine because it was not in the Hebrew canon. None of those men were wrong about the rules of their own tradition. But look at what their rules accomplish. They draw a line. They say, here is what is Scripture, and here is what is not. And what is not, Scripture stops being read, stops being copied, stops being remembered. In the West, it worked perfectly. Enoch vanished for 1,000 years. And this is the part that never gets talked about enough. The people who pushed Enoch out of the Bible were not villains. They were pastors and scholars trying to build order out of chaos, trying to protect a faith that was still finding its feet. Their reasons were theological, and for their time, they were defensible. But the side effect of their decision is that an entire vision of the cosmos was erased from Western memory. A vision in which the universe is not dead machinery, but a bounded place, a room with a wall and a door, and a question hanging over it. When that vision was erased, the question went with it. Why is there a boundary at all? What is on the other side? When will it open? Remove that question from a culture, and here is what you get. A universe that is everything there is, with nothing before it, nothing after it, nothing outside it. A universe that needs no answer, because it has no outside. And for 400 years, that is exactly what Western science believed too. The universe was infinite, eternal, or both, and the question of what lies beyond it was as meaningless as asking what lies north of the North Pole. Then the 20th century happened, and the telescopes happened, and the universe turned out to have a beginning, a birthday, a wall of ancient light around everything we can see. And the strangest thing of all started happening. The questions that the Book of Enoch asked in myth language started showing up in physics journals, in different words but the same shapes. What was there before? Where does the pull come from? Why is there a direction? Why does the boundary have a scar? I cannot tell you that Enoch actually traveled to the end of the universe. And I cannot tell you that the legend of the hidden passage is true, because I have not seen it, and neither has anyone I can verify. What I can tell you is more careful and more interesting. The material here is a text, a group of texts that thinks about the edge of reality the way a child thinks about the edge of a forest, with terror and with longing. And the universe we live in, the one we can measure, keeps offering us similar edges. The wall is real. The cold spot is real and unexplained. The flow of galaxies is real. Dark energy is real, and its source is unknown. The axis of evil is real, and no one has cleanly explained it. Put all of that together, and you are standing exactly where Enoch stands in the text, at the boundary, looking out, unable to see, but sure, somehow sure, that there is something on the other side. So what do you do with that? That is the question I want to leave you with, because I think it is the real subject of this entire book, and it has nothing to do with angels or astronomy. It is a question about how you live in a universe that might have a beyond with space inside it. You and I are going to die. Every person who ever heard this story is going to die. Every galaxy in our future will end, and the universe itself, on the longest timescale science can imagine, will fade, cool, run out of usable energy, and slip into a final state where nothing happens forever. That is the most likely ending of the story, heat death, the longest night imaginable. Unless, of course, what the text whispers is real, that this universe is not the whole story, that what exists is the displacement of something older, and that when the wall thins, when the pressure from outside finally wins, the waiting ends. I am not going to tell you which of those is true. I do not know. Nobody knows. And that is the point. The Book of Enoch does not give you certainty. It gives you the opposite. It hands you the question and then steps back into the dark from which it came. What was here before? Who is pressing on the wall? When will they come through? And the reason the book survived at all, the reason it hid in a mountain monastery for 1,000 years, the reason it is still being read tonight in your city, in your language, is that the question will not die. Here's the final image I want to leave you with. Picture the boundary of everything, the wall of first light, the edge of the known. Picture everything you have ever loved glowing on your side of it. Every star, every memory, every future you will never live. Now picture the other side, quiet, older than time, and something in that quiet turning slowly toward the wall, in the direction of the cold spot, in the direction of the pull, at a speed so slow that no instrument could ever measure it, until the moment it matters. That is the story. A wall, a pull, a waiting that outlasts the universe. And the only question that belongs to you is this one. Are you on the side that watches, or the side that waits? If that question reached you, if it found a quiet place inside you and pressed on it, do not let the moment dissolve. Subscribe, so this channel can keep walking to the edge with you. Like this video, so the algorithm knows that some of us still want the strange, the ancient, the true, and share it, not with everyone, just with the one person who needs to be reminded that the universe is bigger than any answer we have been given. The next journey begins in the comments. Tell me what you think is waiting on the other side of the wall. I will be there in the dark, reading every word.